Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Bundjalung people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. My name's Ellen Fleeton. I'm a Future Students Officer at Southern Cross University. I'm actually based at our Coffs Harbour campus, but did my undergraduate studies here in Lismore, so definitely nice to be back on this beautiful campus. We have an amazing panel today who I got the pleasure of speaking with these lovely ladies last night in Coffs Harbour, so good to do it all over again. So what I'll do is I'll let you introduce yourselves and explain your connection to Southern Cross University.
Thanks, Ellen. Do you want to go first, Oriana?
Hi, so I'm Oriana. I'm a third year Bachelor of Social Work student. I'm based in Lismore, but I do study on the Gold Coast campus. My connection with Southern Cross University began back in year 11, about 2018 now. So I actually entered Southern Cross through one of the pathway programs. So I've been connected to these guys for a while and I'm loving it.
Thanks, Oriana. And Louise?
So my name's Louise Whittaker and I'm based at the Gold Coast campus. That's where my office is, but I live fairly close to this campus, so I go between the two. I've been working for Southern Cross for about 10 years and I came on board when I finished my PhD in about 2013 it was, and it was when the Masters of Social Work course was introduced. So I'm involved in all three of the courses that we offer. So we have 2 undergraduate courses, a Bachelor of Community Welfare, which is for 3 years, Bachelor of Social Work, which is 4 years, and then we have a Master's program, Masters of Social Work, which is for 2 years. We'll talk more about those later. But my background is in social work. I've actually been a social worker since the 80s. So it's quite some time, 30, maybe 40 years almost. And love it. And my interest is in mental health social work, and that's the area that I mostly teach in. I coordinated a couple of the courses from the last 5 years, but this year I'm focusing on teaching and research.
Fabulous. Thank you, Louise, and thanks, Oriana. Louise, you touched on the degree options that students have. So would you be able to go into a little bit more detail about those different degrees, what they look like and where they can lead students?
Happy to. And I might also talk a bit about social work and community welfare, because sometimes people are not exactly sure about what might be involved and how we think about things. So would that be helpful?
Sounds great. Absolutely.
Yeah. So social work and community welfare are both really about social justice and thinking about how we create communities that are fair and support diversity. So really are very socially inclusive and welcome a range of people. So that's kind of the foundation. And so what that means is that we work with what we call person and environment. So we think about individuals, people, their situations, our situations, how we live, and we think about how the social circumstances surrounding us influence the quality of our lives. And we work with both individuals and then the range of, it might be their family, it might be their community, it might be social policy, it might be community groups that people are involved in. We think about how we could work with those to actually make them more inclusive. So it's both working with individuals as well as communities and social policy. So that means that the courses actually cover quite a lot about personal development, human development, and individuals, and thinking about our psychology and how we think about the world, as well as sociology, social science units, social Australian politics. So you can see that we're covering both in the course. First year of both of the undergraduate courses, both the community welfare degree and the social work degree, 4-year social work degree, are really the same. They're the same units. So if you sign up for either of those, you'll start in the same place. And that's a really broad range of units that are about getting a taste, if you like, of the range of things that are involved in community welfare and social work. So you might do some units around Indigenous Australians, Australian politics, introduction to sociology, so you start to think about how we think from a social perspective, and then basic counselling skills. So you can see the breadth that starts from working with individual people as well as thinking much more broadly. That's the first year. At the end of the first year is when you would choose to branch into either community welfare or social work. And so at that point you start to think about, do I actually want to do a 3-year degree and work in a non-government organisation, working with individuals or communities, community development, which you can do with a 3-year degree, that's what it prepares you for. Or do I actually want to increase my options and be able to work with government organisations like in a hospital or Centrelink? If you want to work in a government organisation, you need the 4-year degree. So you need to be the Bachelor of Social Work to do that. Is that enough of an intro?
Yeah, you gave a great overview. So to be a qualified or practice as a social worker, what does that look like? What do we need to do to get there?
So that's a 4-year social work degree.
4-year social work degree.
So we have 2 options just so that it's not too straightforward. The other option is that you can do the 3-year community welfare degree or another equivalent 3-year degree. Often we have psychology as well. And from there you can go out and do some work and you can then come back, or you can do it straight on if you want to do the master's degree. So that would be a Master's of Social Work. So if you do that, you end up with 1 undergraduate degree, that's a 3-year degree, as well as a master's degree. And that is the equivalent to the 4-year social work degree. Sounds a bit confusing, but that's the equivalent. So you end up being a member of what's called the Australian Association of Social Workers, and I've given you brochures about those.
Louise, I wanted to ask a little bit about how placements work within the degrees. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that? And then Oriana might be able to share some of her experiences on placement as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really important question. One of the things to think about when you're thinking about these degrees is that because community welfare and social work are very practice-based, the tools of our trade, if you like, are ourselves. We need to develop our skills in how we work with people. Part of what's important in the course is actually going and doing work integrated learning, so actually doing a placement is what we call it, which means going out and working in an agency and really getting a feel for what it's like to put all of this theory into practice. You're not on your own when you do that. You're very supported by a supervisor, and we help to find the place where you would go to do the placement. And it's all structured and set up with things that you need to do, so it's fun rather than being anxiety provoking. Well, I thought it was fun. It'd be interesting to see what Oriana thinks about how she's anticipating. Do you think it's going to be fun?
I hope so.
But it's quite a lot of time, so you need to plan for it. In the community welfare degree, there's 2 200-hour placements. So that's, like 5 or 6 weeks, although you can do it 3 days a week, so it could take a little longer, so you can blend it into your life a little more. So that's 2 200-hour placements. And usually with the community welfare degree, it's at the beginning of 2nd year and the end of 3rd year. And we deliberately want you to do it at the end of 3rd year, at those 2 times, at the beginning of 2nd year, because you've done all of that very theoretical work at the beginning throughout 1st year, and this is your chance to get a sense of what does it feel like to put this into practice? What does it feel like? How do I feel in this? Is this a good fit? So that's the first thing for 2nd year. The end of 3rd year is important because it consolidates your learning very well. And also, there's another advantage, and that is we often find that students might have been on prac for 200 hours. The agency the organisation you're working in gets to know you, and they think, this student's ready to go, This person now has actually been working with us for several weeks, understand what the work's about, and if there's some part-time work or some even full-time work available, often it's a really good pathway into a job. So that's the 2 placements, 2 200-hour placements. The more challenging news is that for the 4-year social work degree, it's 1,000 hours of placement. So that is, if you do it in the 4-year degree, it's 2 500-hour blocks. Same rationale, finishing with a placement at the end of the 4th year so that you link into work, just longer, and so there's more involved. third option, I'll keep going. The third option is that if you do the Bachelor of Community Welfare and you do the 200-hour placements and you get 400 hours up your sleeve in terms of having done placement, when you go into the Master's program from there, you don't need to do the first placement, which is 400 hours. You get recognition of prior learning. So you just do a 600-hour placement in the Master's degree, and again, it's at the end. So again, it's about linking you into the workforce.
Fantastic. How does that make you feel, Oriana?
I'm so ready for placement. I'm so excited. So I'm doing the Bachelor of Social Work. So I'm doing the 4-year degree, which comes with the accreditation and the 1,000 hours. So the way that that's going to look for me is next year I'll start placement in January and I'll finish around June. So we call it a tri-term placement. So it means it goes across 3 of our 6-week terms. And that could look like a 5-day week. It could look like a 3-day week for me. I'm not quite sure yet. So yeah, I'm kind of at the end of all of the hoops I'm jumping through for placement. So I'll find out pretty soon what the next year is going to look like for me.
So you mentioned you've got to do a few things to get ready for placement. Does the university then place you in an organisation? You don't need to go out and find that yourself?
Yep, so the way that looks like, we have a portal called Sonia, and that has the list of everything you need to do to get ready for placement, such as like getting your tetanus shot, uploading your resume, things like that, listing, if you were willing to go rural and remote. And then once the uni has all of that information, they work at placing you using what you've given them. But I'm also very lucky, just to add on, that in the social work degree, even with some of the more theory-based units that I've done up until this point, it's always encouraged to get out and volunteer or even integrated into the curriculum.
Yeah, and you've had some amazing experiences and put your hand up for a lot of volunteer opportunities. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your work at Headspace and what you do there?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm the Vice President of the Young Persons Advisory Committee with Headspace in Lismore. So we're a group of young people, and basically what we do, we meet every second Tuesday and we kind of talk about, where our voices need to be heard in the community. So we're really a representation of young people and their mental health in the community. So we go out and do workshops in schools, workshops even in workplaces, just to kind of, start the conversation around youth mental health. We've done a lot of work since the floods. And especially now that we're, as an organisation, based on the Lismore campus, it's been really good to get out and see the young community. So I actually did a small volunteer placement through them for one of my social welfare units. So that involved sitting with one of the youth access clinicians, which is she's a qualified social worker, the person I worked with, and we sat down and we found Casino, which is quite rural, needed. They wanted to work through some activities, so they set up a tabletop games group. So I got to sit in and help them write the pitch for that. And I actually found out the other day through one of our new members that the group is still running today. So it's really cool that the assignment I wrote 2 years ago actually came into action and helped them out there.
That's pretty cool. You should be proud of that. So, Oriana, something that we haven't really touched on yet is you actually started out in a different degree and then transferred over to this degree. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you came to the decision that this was the right place for you? Because I know of all of our students, you are obsessed with your degree and are a very big advocate for it. So, yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually started out in the Bachelor of Laws. So I say I'm a 3rd-year Bachelor of Social Work student, but the Bachelor of Social Work's actually only been with Southern Cross for 2 years now. So my first year was law, but by second semester of that year, I started picking social science units because I knew that's what I wanted to do, with the hopes that I could gain credit when I decided to switch over into the Bachelor of Social Work degree. I remember I was looking at my law things and then I went back on the uni website just to kind of look at what else was there because I saw the Master of Social Work. But I didn't really want to wait to finish my 4-year degree. And then within a matter of weeks, I saw that we were going to start offering the Bachelor of Social Work. And without a hesitation in my mind, I applied for that degree instead. I think doing law was something I'd always wanted to do through high school, but I always knew I didn't want to be a lawyer. I think it was more like a justice, voicing for the people kind of motive that I had. And when I read our little synopsis of the social work degree, I realised that is exactly why I was doing law. And then I had a better degree for it.
And you definitely feel like you've landed in the right place now?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's just, I remember it was interesting when I was doing law, every assignment, every reading kind of just felt like I was really pushing to get it done. And I'd get it done, but I wasn't getting a lot out of it. And I really just thought, the content must have been really hard and I just wasn't getting it. But I'm realising now that even doing what you'd classify as a hard subject in social work, because I have a passion and because I have a drive for it, I'm actually wanting to throw myself into the content. And now even working in the field as a support worker and seeing what the social workers do on my team and coming home and solidifying that with my study, it was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, that's great. I would now like to ask you both, people that work in community welfare or social work are, a very special kind of person. So I wanted to ask, what kind of person or what kind of personality traits do you think it takes to succeed in this field? Do you want to start, Louise?
I can start. I'm smiling because Ellen asked us this last night at Coffs Harbour as well. And what I said was, and I would say it again, is that I think social work is actually suitable to a whole range of people. So I think we often think about this kind of work as being particularly for people who have empathy and who've had life experience that might actually draw them towards wanting to stand up for social justice. But I think there's a range of opportunities, actually, and I think there's a range of opportunities for people to explore. So, for example, if you're someone who isn't quite a people person, but you're still really passionate about justice, there's a lot of opportunity to be writing social policy, to be doing social research. That really is still what a social work degree will prepare you for. So there are opportunities there for people who are more reserved. There's plenty of opportunities for people who are quite extroverted and want to go out and work in communities and gather people together to make a difference to things. And there's a lot of opportunity for people who actually are interested in sitting down and listening to other people and really have empathy with people and standing alongside them in their lives. So yeah, I think it's actually, there's a range of possibilities in terms of the people that can enjoy working in social work for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's a great answer, Louise, because I think last night I was thinking you had to be a certain sort of person to be able to work in this field, but I've had my eyes open to just how broad it is and the different things you can get involved in and different skills that you can bring to the table.
I think too that one of the things we really integrate throughout the course is opportunities for people to stop and reflect and think about what brings me here, what do I want to achieve, what's my special gift to offer. And so that's part of the course. That happens throughout the whole 3 or 4 years. And so people will be able to think about that.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add to that, Oriana?
Yeah, I think the only, straightforward traits I can think that come to mind is compassion and passion. Compassion for yourself and others, and a passion to advocate for others and advocate for what's right. And I think instead of trying to worry about fitting a mould into what someone in that industry looks like, is if your gut's telling you that that's something you could be interesting, then you are the right person for that kind of field, and you will find your niche if that's something you really want.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks, Oriana. So we have a couple of minutes now if anyone would like to ask a question of our panel members.
So I think what you're saying is that you work in community welfare or something equivalent, or if someone does, can you actually have that experience recognised? Yeah? Yes, you can. So there's a process to do that, and when you first think about doing the degree, it's really worth talking to the student services team as well as to the course coordinator about what you might be able to get recognition of prior learning for, or advanced standing, we call it. So if you're thinking about whether you're in the masters or doing the undergrad and where to start again, that's a great conversation with student services and the course coordinator. If you've got an existing degree that's a 3-year degree that has a social science component to it. So it might be a social science degree, it might be a psychology degree, law, it might be a law degree, some teaching degrees. We've had journalism as well. They can qualify you to then go straight into the master's program. The kinds of things that we'll be thinking about in terms of getting experience for your work experience for the placements would be that the kind of work you're doing really is very similar to community welfare. It's not support work, it's more like case management. So it's a slightly different kind of work. Support work is fantastic in terms of experience, but not quite the same.
Thank you so much to our amazing panellists and our amazing audience. And if you are thinking about a career in social work, social welfare or community welfare, please apply to study at Southern Cross University. We would love to welcome you to our beautiful university and to work in such an amazing and broad field. So thank you very much, and thank you to our panellists.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.